Childhood Circles by Dr. Alon Giladi. Values and Loneliness.
My childhood circles closed in 12th grade. At that time, I was an excellent student, more or less accepted in my group in the Shomer Hatzair movement, vice chairman of the school student council, etc., etc. At one of the group meetings in the movement, the issue of philosophy was discussed, the ideological goal underlying joining the movement. Those were days of decision-making about the beginning of our future. We had to decide whether we would join the movement to the core of the Nahal, Pioneer Settlement Fighting Youth, in the IDF, or enlist in the regular draft. I debated this question a lot. Something in me wanted to contribute to the army, to society, according to the values of the time, to reach the highest and most challenging combat service. I didn't know what was behind this ambition. Perhaps it was the desire to achieve what I was supposedly not supposed to achieve, since I was a sickly and physically weak boy. Physical fitness and strength were as far from me as the East is from the West, but my thoughts focused on ideal issues and less on the practical way to achieve them. Perhaps it was the need to be accepted, perhaps the desire to idealize the army, which was still accepted in those days, although in a different way than in the days before the Yom Kippur War. I don't know. In any case, I hesitated between going to the Corps and my own combative, achievement-oriented personal mobilization for the sake of society. This was one of the few ideological meetings that took place in the group. Without knowing why or wherefore, I made it difficult for my friends and raised with them the need to discuss the thought of Marx, Mill, and others. I aggressively demanded to discuss the basis of the principles of equality that were supposed to stand at the center of the purpose of our activities. I wanted to hear my friends' opinion on the ideology to which, and in whose name, I was supposed to give the next years of my life. Perhaps deep down, sensing the answer, I actually wanted to say goodbye and embark on a new path. I don't know. I remember the bewilderment that gripped my friend. What the hell? Why and for what reason am I asking for what should be obvious, and in fact was not understood at all? After all, we are friends. This lame discussion was the culmination of a process that was taking place within me. About 6 months earlier, I had been sent to the National Council of the movement. There, I made friends with another boy, the grandson of Israel's first minister of the Interior. The year was 1981, and he probably doesn't remember. In any case, there was talk and more talk. According to the agreement between me and that boy, I went up to the stage independently. I took a written speech out of my pocket and began to speak, a little stammering, a little apprehensively, but to speak. I propose, I told the members of the council, to recognize the right of the Palestinian people to an independent state. I barely uttered these words and was immediately ordered to leave the stage. After heated discussions, I was allowed to return to the stage and briefly present my puzzling proposal. I was there on the 11th grade Shomer Hatzair Council. I wanted to propose an important and relevant proposal for the discussion, but they wanted to silence me. Finally, with no choice, they let me finish my speech, but I was rejected outright because of the needs of the mother movement, the inappropriate date, and so on. Now, shortly before the draft, I stood in front of my group members and tried to understand what and why I should follow this path. Is this the right path for moral and practical fulfillment? Is this the path to act in accordance with the values of equality? Is living on a kibbutz suitable for someone like me? It is difficult to describe the small drama in the life of a teenage boy who stands up in front of his friends and informs them face to face, in clear and unambiguous language, that their paths are parting. That was how things were. That is how we parted ways, face to face, forever. Standing up to my groupmates and making the decision in front of both mine and them made me focus on my studies this time. I told myself that after this crisis, which came to me by choice, I had to make the most of the end of my 12th year and finish my studies, which had been faltering until then, in the best possible way. It never occurred to me in those days, towards the end of 12th grade, that events similar to those I experienced in 9th grade, at the beginning of high school, were about to begin. Nothing indicated that my last year of high school would, in a completely unexpected way for me, be a closing of a circle, precisely from a place I had managed to completely forget about. The class I had been in for about 3 years was relatively comfortable socially. It was pleasant to study in. The children did not interfere with each other. Things went more or less smoothly, and I continued to excel. Now, I was relatively accepted as the vice chairman of the school's student council and the chair of the class committee, the mediator between the students and the teachers. One of my favorite teachers in those days was the history teacher. I liked the history teacher, not necessarily because of the brilliance of her lessons, but more because of the fairness, kindness, and mutual respect that I recognized in her conduct. One day, the teacher announced to the class that she was going to hold a test. Shortly before the test, the students approached me and asked me to work with the teacher to cancel the test because they wanted to concentrate on studying the material for the upcoming final exams. I picked up the phone to the teacher, who was at her house, and gave her the student's request. The teacher told me that since I was contacting her, she would grant my request. I went happily and kindly to my friends at the school desk and told them the good news. But after eating, the appetite apparently comes. Evil waits for an opportunity, and when it comes, it must not miss it. When some of my classmates heard that I had managed to cancel the test, they called a new class discussion. This time, they tried to convince the class not to enter the class at all. I stood up to them and argued passionately that such a thing was impossible. After all, I had worked to cancel the test at their request because they wanted to study, and now they were asking not to enter the class. For what and why? All the logical arguments were of no use. The minority had defeated the silent, dragged majority. The time for the class had arrived. The history teacher entered the class, but the students had fled, and I was among them. I felt ashamed, angry with myself, but at the same time, I remembered the 9th grade. It was the decision of the majority in an illegal process, the dragging of the majority in the class after inappropriate behavior, and I obeyed it. At the same time, at that moment I said to myself, no more. This would be the last time I would give in to my fear and obey social pressure against fairness, justice, common sense, and law as I perceived them at the time. Really? After that escape, the class saw that a bad thing could be tolerated, and therefore, it was the turn of the English teacher. The English teacher was a good woman, but she exuded weakness towards the students and a certain degree of slowness. Towards the end of the year, apparently to prepare us for the exams, the English teacher informed us that we had to face a surprise exam. Those instigators, from the history class, stood up in front of the teacher and announced that there was no room for compliance with her demand and urged the students to leave the class. This time, they did it in front of the teacher's astonished eyes. My anger burned in me, but on the other hand, the opportunity had come to keep my promise. I stood up in front of my classmates and glared at them. I informed them that in history class, I had given in to their whims, but here and now I stand my ground and will not cooperate with them. The class did not listen to my arguments and preferred the rebellion, which seemed possible to them after the success of the previous rebellion. One by one, my classmates left the class in front of the helpless face of the English teacher.
I was the last one in the class. I sat alone and filled out the test. After that, I went alone to the English teacher and handed her my answers. The teacher looked at me before taking the paper from me and said to me, "Alon, don't hand me the test. You are the outstanding student and this has no meaning for you. Go to them, otherwise you will be hurt badly." I looked straight at her. "I am aware of everything that may happen from now on," I told her. "Take the test. Obviously, the grade is not what is at stake here." I left the class. Outside, I looked at my classmates and they looked back at me. Not a word was said. Not a hand was raised again. Early summer 1982. Life was back on track. Was it? At least there was no room for doubt about one thing. The circles of childhood were over. The time had come for new circles to begin.